Please like and subscribe to this channel and press the bell icon to get new video updates.
To welcome you to Santa's toy shop and radio shop. For 2,781 years, I used to make and give away silly little wooden elves like this guy here and this little guy up here. And I decided that I might want to try something else. And now I got into radios, modern radios like Atwater Kent, and really started grooving on those. And I heard about ways of getting these without actually having to pay for them, because Santa doesn't have any money. Nobody pays Santa. Yeah, Santa has to do this all on his own. So I heard about this place called NEVEC in Brookline, and I dressed up incognito, and I made a clandestine raid on Brookline, New Hampshire at the last NEVEC meet. And I walked around trying to look innocent. And I think I got away with it. Nobody really looked at me because everybody was looking a little weird that day. But I was secretly keeping my eyes on the free table. And as the show went on, I saw this poor old Atwater Kent radio sitting on the free table, and it got late. And then it got very late, and the Atwater Kent was still sitting on the free table. And the end of the show came along, and nobody took it. And Bruce was grumbling away. Larry was getting really annoyed. Tom finally said he'd take it home and bury it. But when nobody was looking, I put it in a big bag, and I sneaked into the woods nearby where my reindeer and sleigh were waiting, and I took off with it for the North Pole. Now, you've all heard of the All-American 5. Well, this is the Atwater Kent 6. And you can see that wonderful logo on the front, the Atwater Kent logo. And this is a heck of a good radio. Now, when you get a radio like this, the first thing you want to do is to turn it on. But I found out it wasn't working. Matter of fact, a lot of things weren't working on it. So I got my tools out, and I surrounded myself with all the important tools like the wire cutters and a pretty good sized pair of vice grips. You never know when you're going to have to do something serious with a radio. And I started thinking about what's going on with this radio. And the first thing I noticed was that there were a whole bunch of wires coming out of it, not just the normal 2 wires that you plug into the wall, but there were bundles of wires. Look at those wires, would you? Well, I took the long ones and I connected them to one side of a plug, and I took the short ones and I connected them over to the other side of the plug so I could plug the darn thing in. I know that they probably have different purposes, but I figured AC, alternating voltage is going to cancel out any problems. And who wants a battery set anyway? You got to plug the thing in. And so I prepared to try the radio out. But first, every time you get an old radio, everybody says you got to recap it. What a ridiculous, ridiculous thing to do to a poor old radio, recap it. Take Santa's cap, you wouldn't recap Santa, would you? No, you shouldn't recap a radio, for God's sake. It is a very simple matter to take a hairdryer and every condenser in the radio, and you heat up the condenser with the hairdryer. And what that does is it lets the wax inside the condenser run back around all those little plates in there. And it continues to be a good condenser after that, because the wax is an insulator, for goodness sake. So don't ever recap a radio. What you gotta do is you've gotta re-ohm a radio. Now, re-ohming a radio is an amazing job. And I'm going to tell you a little about re-ohming in case you don't understand how extraordinary a device a ohm or a resistor is. Resistors waste electricity. Did you know that? Every single resistor in every radio wastes electricity. And not only that, it turns the electricity into heat. And talk about a waste. Only up here at the North Pole do you need that kind of heat. But anyway, every radio you turn on, all these resistors are constantly turning out heat. And that's just absolutely ridiculous. So what you do is you take your wire cutter and you go down and you snip off both leads of the resistor like that. And then you look at the resistor and look at this resistor. Will you look at this guy? Look at that. Can you see? It's an orange resistor. You know what that means? That means 3, 3, and then 3 zeros. 3,300 ohms. And that's a lot of wasted energy, of wasted electricity and heat. Ridiculous. Throw the damn thing away. Now look at this one. I just got it out. Have to finish cutting it now. Yeah, cut it out. And this one is a orange yellow. My goodness, that is 33000 ohms. What a ridiculous piece of junk that is. And then we have this one that is a brown green. A brown green is a million ohms. Can you imagine it? What an incredible waste of electricity. A million ohms, for goodness sake. Get rid of it. And what you do is you use the really clever technique of you take some bus wire, and this is a roll of number 2 copper wire, and you replace every single resistor with number 2 copper wire when you have an old radio. And what that does is it makes the electricity go through much faster. Instead of a million ohms, copper wire is 0.000000042 ohms for the length that a typical resistor would be. Here's another ridiculous little resistor. Get rid of it and replace it with a real solid conductor. Radios need conductors in order to work properly. And that is one of the great lessons that I've learned. You do not want to waste electricity. Do you know that the typical Atwater Kent radio has 8,871,562,392 ohms in one radio? My God, what a lot of ohms. That's enough heat and enough energy and enough power wasted. You could heat a whole town with that amount of electricity. So the first thing you should do whenever you get a radio, old or new, is re-own the darn thing and save the world, because we're in an energy crisis. Energy crisis. We could eliminate the energy crisis completely by re-ohming every single radio, television, and other electronic device in the world. So that's the first step. You re-ohm everything. Then you go on and you do some other repairs. I got some service instruments over here. We've got a signal tracer, and we've got a good old 260, Simpson 260 VOM. Now the Simpson 260 VOM is a wonderful device, but if you look at it closely, it's always frowning. Look at that dial. It always looks like it's unhappy. And what you got to do with a Simpson 260 is you turn it upside down and you put a hat on it and a couple of eyes and you make it smile. Can you see the smile on that baby? That's a happy Simpson 260 ohm meter and voltmeter. And you don't want an unhappy one in your shack. You want a happy meter in your shack. So there you go. And that's really important. You start putting those wires on those parts inside the radio, and you start working on it. Now, I'm going to show you some of the other instruments when I get there, but let's plug in the radio and see what happens. And we'll just put some tubes in it. And what you got to do when you put tubes in is you got to have the right tubes for the radio. Now, these old radios, ridiculous old radios, they use tubes with pins on them. And the modern tubes have screw-in bases. Now, a screw-in base is much more sensible. A tube with pins on it can fall right out of the radio, for goodness sake. And a screw-in tube, it doesn't fall out of the radio. So just bear with me for a minute while I put some new tubes in this radio here. And we'll put that one in, and we'll put this one in. Whoops, yeah, there we go. We'll put this one in. And oh, this one's not working. Let me try my tube tester. You didn't know that a signal tracer is also a tube tester, did you? That's the old ICO signal tracer. But if you look carefully, there's a socket there, and you can screw your tubes into that, and you can test them. Well, that is a bad tube. Let's try this one to make sure it works okay. We'll screw it into the tube tester. Yep, see, that one worked fine. I'm going to throw that one away, and we'll screw this one into the Atwater Kent. Yep, there we go. We're going to put in another tube there, and we'll put in another tube over here. And let me see, yeah, that one's working. And we'll put in a tube here. Yeah. I hope that one's going to work all right. Let's see. Yeah, it's giving me a little trouble going in, but I know it'll work. I hope it'll work. Yeah, getting close there. Yeah. And yeah. Come on. There we go. And we got one more to put in to get the All-American Atwater Kent 6 tubes. Can you imagine it? And there they are, and there they are. They're all working. I got my 6 tubes working here, and they look pretty good, actually. And now comes the point at which we test it. We got the radio on, we got the tubes lighted up, and we got it all re-ohmed so that it's not wasting electricity. I got 3 300-foot long wire antennas up here, and I've got them all connected to the back of the radio, this little antenna connection here. And so it's got plenty of antenna, and I got this loudspeaker over here, so we can see if anything comes out of it. Can you see I guess you can see the loudspeaker okay. And I'm going to turn it on, and it makes the volume control go up, and I'm tuning around the dial. And you hear anything? I don't hear anything. There's something wrong here. I don't know what's going on, but I got to figure that out. We need a signal generator in order to test a radio like this. Now, signal generators generally work on a low harmonic frequency, and then you use the higher harmonics, which get up into the radio frequency. So I'm going to start with a simple signal generator. I didn't hear anything from the speaker. Let's try this one. Nothing coming through. Nothing. What's the matter with this? I'm doing all kinds of harmonic. That's ridiculous. What's going on here? Let's try, since we got to have harmonics, we got to have a harmonica. Jingle bells. Oh, well, you know that song. I won't keep playing it. Something is very wrong with this radio. I just can't imagine why it didn't respond. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hook up my 1,000-watt radio transmitter here. I've got a kilowatt amplifier back here, and my friend Tom, W1TP, is letting me use his license. We won't tell the FCC about that. And we're going to hit the microphone with that. And let me see, I'll plug in a microphone to that radio. Let me see, we got a microphone here that looks like it might work. Hello, test. Hello, test. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Nothing coming through at all. Nothing. I mean, is that ridiculous? How about this other microphone? This is a nice relatively modern one, we'll look at hello test, hello, hello, hello test, hello. Nothing coming through at all. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm very upset about that. And, I've gone through all this trouble. We're hitting it with all that power. We've got a loudspeaker on it. What else can I do? And one of the problems that I'm noting here is that it's starting to smoke. And this is big trouble. You don't want a smoking radio on your bench. So you put out the fire by pouring whipped cream all over it. I mean, fire extinguisher all over it. Yeah, that's it. And pretty soon you've got, at least you put out the fire, and now you've got a radio covered with whipped cream. And of course, this radio isn't any good because it isn't working. So you throw some sprinkles on it, and you sprinkle it with a little bit of candy, and it's still going to smoke a little bit, but what the heck. And then you get your marshmallows out, and you might as well, you've got this radio, you might as well cook your marshmallows on it. So we just put a marshmallow on there and a marshmallow on there, and take a little lip. Yummy. That's good. Whipped cream. Yummy, yummy, yummy. So as you can see, the radio fixing in the North Pole is kind of ridiculous, but what I'm going to do when nobody's looking, I'm going to take this radio and take it back to Brookline and see if I can get a different radio. So don't tell anybody. Whatever you do, if you see an Atwater Kent radio with marshmallows and whipped cream all over it, don't give away my secret, whatever you do.
Please like and subscribe to this channel and press the bell icon to get new video updates.